Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Busby Way podcast. I'm joined by a different face this time, not Chris. I'm joined by Tom. Tom, how you doing, mate?
Not bad. Well, I say not bad. I could be better after yesterday, but I'm all right.
Oh, I know, that's why I say it's another riveting episode, because let's be realistic. This is all doom and gloom. It has been for about 3 months now. It's not been a positive podcast to really talk on about Man United's experiences as of recent, apart from the Champions League this season. We haven't really had much to shout about. We went out in the first round of the League Cup. Who did we got in the FA Cup to?
Middlesbrough, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. Well, there you go then. Just proving point, not even much to shout about. First round of the FA Cup as well, and it hasn't been a great season. So we'll quickly touch upon yesterday. Well, I'll say quickly. We're going to do it as quick as we possibly can because, talking about a Man United 4-0 loss to Brighton really isn't great to talk about. Tom, what went wrong?
I mean, nothing went well at all.
Well, yeah.
I can't think of a single positive that I can take from the game. Like, usually, even if we do play poorly, there's either, a snippet here or a snippet there that you can take from and think, oh, we could develop on that, or that was quite good, but there was absolutely nothing. I think the players from the first whistle, they just weren't on it. They just looked like they didn't care, and the heads were somewhere else, probably the end of the season. And I feel like they've been like that for the last few weeks. They've just given up.
Well, it was very contrasting compared to that Brentford game, because that Brentford game I was there and they were actually quite good. We were saying, the lads around me, we were talking, we said this is actually probably the best we've seen them play all year. In terms of, well, I don't know, in terms of all year, that's maybe a bit of a push, but in terms of how they played against Brentford, they played really well. They kept the ball. Whether that was dictated by Mata, because Mata had a good game against Brentford, he dictated the play quite well. He passed it around. But the Brighton game, I just don't know where it went wrong. They just, like you say, whether they're thinking about the end of the season or if it's an attitude problem. Because Brighton, I think we were talking in the chat earlier. Isn't that their first home win since December?
I think so, yeah.
And 25% of their goals at home this year have come against us in that game, which is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous stat to say Man United is supposedly, one of the better teams in England. Whether we've proven that or not this year is another debating point. We've got 90 minutes left of football this season. Thank the Lord for that. But what does Ten Hag have to do based on that Brighton performance, Tom, next season when he comes in?
I think there just needs to be a massive, cultural rechange. I mean, for me, it's just the attitude throughout, and obviously it seems quite toxic from the outside, whether that's, we spoke about it in the past, from the hierarchy or from the players in the changing room, but it just feels as though there's no togetherness at all. And I feel like that's the first thing that he needs to come in. He needs to show. He just can't. I don't know really. He just needs to bring that bit of, like I say, togetherness. He needs to give them something that they can look towards and work on, because I feel like everything's just a bit vague at the moment.
Yeah, I agree, and you could see it on Ronaldo's face yesterday. He evidently looked displeased, and I think he expresses a lot of the thoughts of the Man United fan base. Do you think he'll stay next season? Just out of context.
I think the way he is, I don't think he'd be happy leaving on a season like this. So I do think he will stay. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and he's like you say, he's one of those guys who's got the attitude, and who Ronaldo has to. He's a winning mentality. It's a winning mentality. It is one of the last stages of career. Don't get me wrong, I do think he will stay for another year. I think one more year he'll see his contract out and then eventually leave it in the next year. There'll be a transition period this year between whoever Ten Hag wants to be his number 9 and Ronaldo, and they will learn from one another. I say learn from one another. Ronaldo's not going to learn from the upcoming striker, but you know what I mean. He's going to almost be nurtured by Ronaldo. I think that's what will happen next season. The idea of Ronaldo playing in potentially the Conference League, I don't know how that appeals to him or how he feels about that. Because let's be realistic, it's a place we could seriously end up. Would you, at this stage, I can't believe I'm asking you this, but would you be happy with Europa League next season?
Well, this has been one of the biggest debates across the fan base, really, whether we do play in a lesser European competition or we focus on a league and, like the FA Cup and stuff like that, where it'll give Ten Hag more time to implement his tactics and so forth. But I think we should be in a European competition. If there's a trophy there to be won, then we should go for it. It also gives Ten Hag a chance to see all the players in the squad, give them a chance, rotation, any young players coming through. So I would definitely take the Europa League, yeah, especially in the position we're in where we could end up in the Conference League.
Well, yeah, because we've got one game left. We've played the most games in the league, which I also think is quite bizarre. Not in terms of like cumulative, but in terms of right now, we've played 37. Everyone below us has played 34, 35 or 36. West Ham creeping up behind us. They won again today at time of recording. I think they won 4-0 in the end, didn't they? Against, was it Norwich they beat 4-0? They thrashed someone I saw. And they're now 3 points behind us with a game in hand, and they have a better goal difference than us. So, is maybe West Ham someone we need to worry about? Again, can't believe I'm saying that, but are they someone we maybe need to worry about in the future?
I wouldn't say in the future, but I'd definitely say right now. If we're looking to develop as a club and bringing in Ten Hag, hopefully we'll move forward and start to climb up the league. It sounds like we're going to end up in first or second. I'm talking top four. So yeah, I mean right now definitely, but hopefully this point next season they won't be. That's the aim.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's be realistic. Everyone thought last year when West Ham did quite well. West Ham have been focusing on the Europa League this year, and they've just gone out in the semi-finals. So they've now got more of a focus on this league because this is their only way of getting into European football next year. They could have won the Europa League and got into the Champions League even, but this is now their only hope of Champions League, not Champions League, sorry, European football next season. Which is weird because it's a contrasting attitude from Man United fans right now, who a lot of them are saying, like you said, to focus on the domestic competition next year, and the West Ham fans who are really, really wanting this European football next year. So it's an interesting dynamic going into it. I'll put it this way: we mathematically cannot catch Tottenham Hotspur anymore, which before the season finished is a ridiculous sentence. No disrespect to Spurs fans out there, but it just is. It's sixth or lower now, and that is a very, very upsetting statement because we really have to go and beat Palace if we want Europa League next year, and not the Conference League. Because all right, that Conference League might give you some good away days in like Crete and other places that are cheap, but it's going to be no good for your squad. If we do end up in the Conference League, Tom, do you think Ten Hag will play almost like the youth team and give youth players a chance to shine? Because we know that Ten Hag's very well known for doing that at the Ajax teams that he's been at. He's rebuilt from the youth. Do you think that might be a competition that he does that in?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't see him playing any of the necessarily main team players. Just the risk of injury, or there's just no need to play them until maybe the further rounds or whatever. But any European opportunity for any of the youngsters is a positive one in my eyes.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you speak of positive opportunities as well for youngsters. Manchester United, is it the I always get confused in the Youth Cup. It's the under-23s or is it the under-18s? Have I put you on the spot there? I'll Google it and find out. But they play in the Youth Cup final on Wednesday. Youth Cup final age group. Let's have a look. Let me have a quick look. Have a quick Google. It's only players between the age of 15 and 18 are eligible to take part in the Youth Cup final. So, it's a great opportunity that for some young lads, and it's the first time we've been in the Youth Cup final for a long, long time. So, Ten Hag's got promising talent to be able to use his exposure here to be able to bring people through. And I've cried out for this podcast and on local TV for weeks now, play the youth, because in games like this that are left, for example, that Brighton game, right, where we lost 4-0. Matic played. They're players who aren't going to be here next year. They're not going to be. Them losing 4-0, and if we'd have won 1-0, if we'd have drawn 3-3, it makes no difference to the next season because they're gone. They're not here next year. So it makes no difference. Why not play some of them lads who are in that Youth Cup final this Wednesday and give them a chance to show what they can do on a bigger stage? Because let's be honest, they're going to run, they're going to want to win because they're going to want to play for their position in the team next season under the new manager. So why is Rangnick playing people who don't want to be at the... It just baffles me. It really does baffle me. Would you maybe in this Crystal Palace game coming up experiment with a few of the youth players from the Youth Cup? That's if obviously they might need a bit of rest after Wednesday, but we don't play for 2 weeks now. Would you maybe play them in that game against Palace?
Well, I've been thinking about this weekend, and I was thinking about it during the game at Brighton, and I think the Brentford game when we were 3-0 up was the perfect opportunity to put a few of the youngsters on. I think Cavani came on, didn't he? In the Brentford game.
It was almost like a farewell one. It was Cavani, Joe, and who else came on? There was someone else not leaving because Lingard stayed on the bench, didn't he? But it was someone else anyway. It was Fred. Fred came on as well. Came on as well. But yeah.
Well, that was the perfect chance to bring the youngsters in. I mean, it was kind of a positive vibe, as in on the pitch. The players seemed to look like they were enjoying themselves. They were in a comfortable position. So, I mean, if they made a mistake, conceded, it's no big deal at all. And it just seemed as though it was the perfect chance to give some of the youngsters a go. I'm not sure about the Brighton game, whether we should have brought any youngsters on. I know we didn't, but I just think it wouldn't be a good experience for them to come on at 4-0 down when your senior players behind
you.
Would you
have started him though?
I mean,
because if obviously you said about bringing them on to a not positive experience. If it had been that had started them, it might not have got to be a negative experience. If you know what I mean, just play devil's advocate.
I'm not against starting them at all. I feel like just give them a go. You might as well. I mean, we talked about West Ham potentially taking our European spot, but it depends on the aims of the squad. But in that scenario where they didn't start, I personally didn't think it was a great idea to sub them on because it was quite toxic. I mean, the players it was disgraceful. The fans were shouting at the players. And I'm just not sure I would have brought them on in that 4-0 scenario.
No, I agree. But would you maybe, start them against Palace?
I mean, I don't see why not. It can't get any worse.
Well, exactly. That's what I mean. I mean, it's yeah.
I mean, Garnacho looks like there's a few players in and around that squad that have seemed to have shown in training that they want to play, that they're eager to get a chance. And I mean, the likes of, say, Lingard coming on, who we know is not going to be at the club next season. Mata, I can sort of understand Mata because when he's actually come on in the last month, he's probably been our best player on the pitch. But I definitely think the youngsters should have a go.
Yeah, well, the squad's now got a long rest. At time of recording, we have 2 weeks before we play again. So, why not give them a run out? Because let's be realistic. That's like you said, it can't get any worse. So why not give some of them a go? Because they're going to be the ones that potentially hold the future of Man United, and Ten Hag will be wanting to see. He won't be wanting to see the likes of Mata. He won't be wanting to see the likes of Matic because they won't be his players next year. So. Yeah, like you say, why not? Give them a go against Palace. Just quickly, we'll touch on Palace quickly. Are they someone who worry you, Crystal Palace?
Definitely. I mean, it's no matter what team that goes to Palace, they always seem to struggle pretty much. It's quite a hard ground to play in. We've struggled quite a lot in the transition all season, probably due to our lack of midfield in every game. So I think Zaha could definitely punish us. I think how dynamic Gallagher is, I think he can cause us issues also. I'm definitely not going into that game confident, and I'm definitely not going into that game thinking, yeah, we can win it.
Well, it's been one of those seasons this year, isn't it, where you haven't gone into any game where you've been confident. I can't remember the last time I went into a match and thought, yeah, United will stuff them here today. There's always been something, they could do us today, and that's awful.
Yeah.
It's an awful feeling to have as a Man United fan, because that's not something we're, well, especially me and you, not us, something we've been used to feeling before because of our age. We've never seen a Man United team that hasn't dominated. So this is like, it's new, and that's why it's almost quite worrying, because if they don't get that sorted in the next few years, the fear factor goes, the big club status goes, and then you start to spiral into more detrimental impacts. And I think Man United are actually starting to go down that path already before we've even started to decline even further than we have. I think a lot of teams are now coming to us and thinking, well, we can get points against these today because Brighton just smashed these 4-0 at home, so why can't we? We'll move away from the fixtures then and talk slightly about the squad and incomings and outgoings for next season. Paul Pogba, he has been a big talking point for Man United fans for a lot of time. And there's been some news breaking about him this week, rumoured about him this week. So sorry, not breaking. But what would your opinions of him be? Would they change, or would they get worse or excel if he did go to Manchester City?
That's a tough question, because I was on here about a month ago saying I'd give him a new contract, see how he was under the new manager. But for me, if a player doesn't want to be at the club, then you're not going to get the best out of them. They're not going to give you 100% in every game, or let's say buy into the philosophy. So if he was to move to City, or just say leave, if he left, not an issue. If you move to City, yeah, get a bit of hate, but I don't really care, to be honest.
No, on that point, I think the damage is now done with Paul Pogba. I think a lot of people are now realising that Mourinho pointed it out. It seemed to go wrong on the Solskjaer, and like Keane said, leopards don't change their spots. Sorry, and it's it's a shame, because he could have been a great player, and on his day he's a great player when he wants to be. It's just a shame that we've only seen that a few times in a red shirt since he's re-signed for Man United. But do you think he'd fit into that Guardiola system? Do you think that Guardiola system is something that would suit him?
I think in that role that Gundogan plays now, with the late runs into the box. I mean, the difference between City and United is the poles apart in quality. City can control a game and we can't control 5 minutes. So there's no doubt that he'd perform at that City side. He wouldn't fit in the Liverpool team, I don't believe. But definitely in a team that controls possession, allows him to set the tempo. I think he will be good under Guardiola.
I'm inclined to agree with you, but the only thing that worries me, well, not worries me actually, makes me quite happy if he does go to City and goes into that system, is if I was a Man City fan, I'd be looking and thinking, well, every single one of our midfielders works hard, and Guardiola likes players who work hard. Paul Pogba doesn't work hard. In case you've missed something as a Man City fan watching this, in case you're a Man City fan watching this, Paul Pogba does not work hard. He does not run. He sulks when it doesn't go his way. Don't get me wrong, he's got great vision and great passing ability, and he can strike a ball, but he work ethic is not something he excels in. So, I mean, yeah, in terms of that's where I'd be worried as a City fan. Not as a Man United fan. I quite revel in the idea. I say let him have him, because he can take his circus over to Man City. But obviously now, it's not the full circus, because unfortunately, his agent did pass away this week, so it's condolences and everything. But it's I always thought it was weird with Raiola, who seemed to have a thing with Man United, and he seemed to always talk negatively about Man United. And a lot of the things now, when you look back at him, Man United fans weren't his biggest fan, but when you look back at him and what he said about Man United over the years, it's all true. He's right. He isn't wrong. Like, it's one of those things that since he has passed this week, and unfortunately he has passed away. I look back at some of the stuff he said, and I actually think he has a point. Like, he's got a point. He said that Man United was run by clowns, pretty much, and we are. there's no structure, there's no system, and he's right. And I think that's what now United is starting to get right in terms of who they are and their identity. Like you said, they need an identity shift. Whether it comes in with bringing in a proper sporting director, like they said they were going to, who knows? We can only see. Speaking of bringing people in, Leeds United look like they're on the verge of going down. Their fixtures don't look great. They got beat by Arsenal today. They played Chelsea and Brentford and Brighton left to play. Not in that order. I think they played Brighton then Brentford. I think it's the way around. But it looks like, they're going to be the ones that do, unless obviously they get a result against Chelsea and Everton lose the rest of the games. Anything could happen. But in terms of what you predict from the fixtures left, it looks like Leeds are going to go down, which would mean that Calvin Phillips would probably be open to a move away from Leeds because, let's be honest, he's too good to be playing in the Championship. Would you take him at Man United, and do you think he'd fit into our system? Well, we don't know what our system is under Ten Hag yet, but do you think he would fit into a Ten Hag system?
I'd take him, but then obviously the main question is at what cost. I mean, if we can get him on a deal that's you look at it and think, oh yeah, that's a bargain for what he offers, then I say go for it. But I do think we need more than one midfielder to be brought in the summer. I think he's a player that he is quite dynamic. He's good on the ball. He can play that lone midfield role quite well. He's used to playing at high intensity under Bielsa and at Leeds. But obviously it's hard to say until we know what else is out there available.
I think if they do go down, you could get him at a reasonable price. I do think it'd be about 30-40 million you'd get him for, which would be a steal really for a player of his quality, especially in today's market. And us being Man United, and they know we need a midfielder. Who else, you mentioned there, it's not the only midfielder you think United should get. Who else would you bring in?
I mean, someone I've admired for a long time has been Ruben Neves at Wolves. I think he's a brilliant player. Set the tempo. He's versatile. I think I read a few. I don't know whether they're true or not, but I read a few rumors that he was going for around the same price you mentioned as Phillips.
Yeah.
You should definitely look at him. I mean, you got Tchouaméni at Monaco. Seems like everyone's interested in him. Quality player. De Jong not happy at Barca supposedly.
Yeah.
Worked under Ten Hag. I think he's a brilliant footballer, and we should definitely look at him if the chance comes for us to sign him.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think that's the at Tchouaméni. I read somewhere today. I think it was 70 million euros. Monaco. I think it was Fabrizio Romano reported it. So, it's a big gamble that because it's someone he's a very young lad. I must admit I'd be lying if I said I've seen him play a lot of games because I don't watch Liga on every single week, and he seems to be a highly rated talent, but we've been bitten so many times by people who we think are highly rated talents from leagues like the Bundesliga and Liga 1 and the Portuguese league. But then again, we've also had some steals like Bruno Fernandes. So, you never know what type of player you're going to get when you buy from a league like that. But we'll see. I mean, I'd take him. I definitely would. I think I'd take anything at this point. Let's be realistic. With my United fans, we're getting to the point where beggars can't be choosers, aren't we? Let's be realistic. Anyone in that midfield would be better at the minute. But we'll wrap it up there anyway because, to be honest with you, talked for 25 minutes about Man United's last game, and it wasn't one really to want to dwell on. So let's look forward to the Crystal Palace game, the final game of the season. Obviously, we've got the Youth Cup final before that. So good luck to the under 18s, and let's hope they bring. I can't believe we're going to count it, but the first bit of silverware for about 4 or 5 years we've seen at Old Trafford. So thank you for joining me, Tom. I hope to see you again on the final episode. If you haven't already, make sure you go check out all the content from local TV, not just Manchester TV. There'll be one for your area, whether that's Leeds, Birmingham, etc. They don't just post football content either. They post general news content. So if you go check that out on the Facebook page, the YouTube, the Twitter, and I think that's every single social. Yeah, that is every single social. Thank you for watching, and make sure you join us for the final episode of the season because it's sure to be a thriller after we get pumped 5-0 by Crystal Palace. See you later.